so today we're going to talk about verifying security properties in software. I'm Stephen McIntosh, and this is Harman Fay. And so why do we want to verify security properties? So when you think about program verification, normally the idea is that we want to make sure that our programs are correct, and that is a good thing. And one method for doing this is static analysis. We can look at a program and decide, based on different rules or whatever you want to do, we can decide this program behaves in this way. Another option is we can use language design and say, if we build a language where certain properties hold, then we can know that whenever that is compiled or interpreted, those properties will hold. And other methods include actually checking properties at runtime. So if something doesn't work like you think it does, then you crash or do whatever. And so when we apply this to security, we get something that's a little bit different from what we get in modern software. So modern software, generally, the way that this works is you write your software, and then someone comes back and tells you, oh, look, this data leaked. You did it wrong. You need to fix this. And that's a problem because at that point, your data is already leaked, and your fix is good, but it wasn't good enough. What's done is done. And another issue is that we have breaches of trust, meaning if I give you my data, I trust you, or I trust you with it, and I think that you're going to do certain things with it. So for example, if I give you my GPS location because I want you to use a map, then I trust that you're not going to use it for other purposes. And so that sometimes is not the case, and it would be nice if we could prove that the software that's running someone else's computer actually is software that is running.
Faster.
And so also proving correctness is actually useful because many times correctness is linked with security problems. And so one challenge here is defining security and privacy. We want our definitions to be verifiable, we want the computer to be able to check it, and then also when we define, for example, security, we have to decide what assumptions we can make about what is secure, or like what things do we want to be secure, what tools does an attacker have, does he have a lot of computing power or very little, that sort of thing. And then also for privacy, we have to decide is release of aggregate data, so putting a bunch of people's data together and then publishing that, is that privacy violation or not? And then there's also proxy data, which is something that Matt Friedrichsen is working on. And the idea is that there's data that company or someone gets from their users, and then they use that information to infer something else about them. What kind of privacy properties do you want with regards to proxy data? And also, as I mentioned, you want these things to be verifiable, and so lots of people have different ideas about how you actually write down these properties. And so one of them is also made by Matt, but I can't really go into the details. So if you're interested, you can look at his paper, Satisfiability Modular Counting. And so another thing that we want to sometimes prove properties about is information flow. So if we have some secure inputs or state, we want to make sure that these are not being accidentally used or given to people who shouldn't see them. And so there are two methods for that. Runtime checking, which was pioneered in some sense by Jin Young. And so she did that in her program Jeeves. And then another way that it's also done by Jin Young is to add policy predicates to the type system, say, this should show something specific to a certain user, but not to other users, and that sort of thing. And that was done in Lifty. And so now I will switch to Haran, who will talk about static verification and automatic proofs.
static verification. So as all of you might know, the program and the proof are closely related. In fact, according to some views, they are in essence the same object. And this leads to the idea that given that the programmers, when we design a software system, we want these properties that are desirable properties for our program, and the two most important ones are correctness, that give the program produce the right result, and security, that the program is secure against and robust against possible failures and outside attacks. And the idea is that there's a lot of existing code that sits at the heart of more complicated security protocols like OpenSSL that are themselves code that often run on cryptographic algorithms. And we want to make sure that this cryptographic code is correct and secure and conforms to whatever expectation we have for them. And this is often difficult to do in practice because of the fact that they're often written in either C or assembly, both of which languages are really hard to prove correct, as you might have learned in various classes. So this gives rise to the idea that we want to design a programming language such that this programming language has certain features embedded into it that makes proving its correctness easier. And this is the subject of research of one of the Scilab professors here, Brian Parham. He designed this language called Veil. And Veil is a programming language as well as a whole toolchain accompanying it. What it does is it turns this on the left. This looks very close to x86 assembly. In fact, this is Perl script. This generates x86 assembly for SHA-256, which is a very important encrypting algorithm. And this is one of the cases where you take this kind of assembly code and you want to figure out what it's doing the right thing. And this is an example of a Veil code. So what Veil does is it transforms an annotated assembly into Veil code and transforms Veil code into another form called Daphne code. And then Daphne is a well-structured language so that we can prove properties about code in Daphne. And you can see Veil has this constructs that look similar to 122 pre and post conditions, but these are static constructs that can be verified via formal and rigorous proofs. So given this toolchain, we were able to say with 100% confidence and with justification that our code works as intended. And finally, I want to talk briefly about dynamic verification, or called execution verification. This is a scenario where a client has a piece of code that wants to run by the agent, who has much more computing power. But the client wants the agent to produce proof that it's running the right code and produce the right result. And Pinocchio uses cryptographic methods to deliver exactly this result. It allows the agent to produce proofs that the computation matches the spec and gives the right result.
Okay, we need to finish quickly.
So there are some challenges to doing this in practice. One thing, as I mentioned, is definitions. Another thing is that it's difficult to actually analyze what programs do when they run before they actually run. And so that's why we have things like the halting problem. It's also expensive to do this, both in programmer time and performance. Programmer time because once you add extra things to the type system, you actually increase the burden on the programmer and he has to actually think about these things. And then also you have performance problems because many times when you try to add these guarantees, that actually changes the structure of your code in a way that is not good for performance. And so lots of the research in this area actually is in making these things more performant.
Yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys.